Welcome to Melbourne Tullamarine International Airport. The last time I stood here, I was talking about how I was about to fly on Air New Zealand to the South Island of New Zealand. Today, however, I will be flying on board Virgin Australia, on board a Boeing 737-800, the staple of their fleet, bound for Cairns in their business class product. Originally, I planned on flying on the Sydney to Cairns flight. However, with my paycheck not coming in fast enough and the price of my originally intended flight increasing exponentially as the departure date approached, I wasted no time in changing my plans to including a stopover and opting for nearly the half-priced Melbourne departing flight. The only downside to this cheap business class ticket I snagged was the early start time. However, I did not appreciate it at the time, but the later departing flight from Melbourne to Cairns would end up being delayed. Originally founded by billionaire Sir Richard Branson in 2000, Virgin Australia, then being Virgin Blue, commenced services between Brisbane and Sydney with only two Boeing 737-400s. Since then, they have grown to become Australia's number 2 airline and having its very own terminal here in Melbourne. As such, Virgin Australia operates out of Terminal 3 here in Melbourne, with a plethora of autonomous check-in kiosks and bag drop facilities available. Off to the left, there is a dedicated priority area for those holding Velocity Gold and higher and business class customers, which I of course took full advantage of today. Check-in was done all for me at the kiosk, with all my details being entered on the machine, my bag being tagged and being dropped off, all by the same check-in agent, which was completely unnecessary, but very well appreciated. Once my bag was sent on its way, I was invited to the business class lounge to relax before boarding. Security is not what it used to be at Terminal 3 the last time I departed here, with the old and very worn security checkpoint being permanently closed. Virgin Australia passengers must now make their way to Terminal 4 for security, but it was no issue for me, only taking roughly 5 minutes to pass through. Once I had cleared security, I turned right and made my way towards the lounge. The Virgin Australia Lounge is located halfway between Terminals 3 and 4, and is actually relatively easy to find. Access to this lounge is based on many different factors. These include Velocity Gold or higher, with Velocity Silver being given 2 free passes each year, business class customers, lounge members, partner airline members, credit card partners, single lounge entry passes, and some high fare tickets on Link Airways. I, of course, had access to this lounge through the use of my business class ticket. Immediately upon the opening of the lounge, the sea of waiting passengers flooded the room. Upon entering the lounge, you're presented 2 paths from reception, the sprawling buffet and bar in one direction, or the wake-up barista coffee station on the other. The lounge offers something for everyone. Whether you're a solo traveller or flying as a pair or in a group, you'll certainly find a seat to suit your needs. The room is a large rectangular space, and yet it never feels cavernous, with mid-height walls and glass partitions to provide a sense of intimacy and privacy. As you'd expect, the seats along the windows offer fantastic views of the apron, but as expected, because of the time of day, you could barely see anything outside. As I entered the lounge during the early morning rush, there was a plentiful selection of dishes to indulge in. As I was basically starving at that point, I opted to fill my stomach as much as possible. I opted for a hot dish, which consisted of the Tuscany baked beans and scrambled eggs with tomato sauce. Later, I had some waffles with raspberries, which I kinda ate before filming. Oops. At the very end of the lounge, you'll find communal bathrooms as well as shower suites, with towels being made available at the front desk at no additional cost. Unfortunately, due to the early departure time, my brief time in this lounge had come to its unfortunate end. The ambitious plan to link Terminals 3 and 4 finally came to fruition in mid-2022, and with it some significant changes for Virgin Australia passengers, including the removal of Virgin's sole Terminal 3 operations. They are still the only airline operating out of Terminal 3. However, in saying that, due to their more than 150 daily flights, they require more gates, and as such, a few gates out of Terminal 4 are operated by them. This today is also where my flight happens to be departing from. Specifically, today's flight commenced boarding at Gate 15 on time, with it being well underway by the time I arrived. Waiting on stand today is the aircraft that'll be flying me north to Cairns, which is a Boeing 737-800, registered as Victor Hotel Victor Uniform Yankee. Construction of this airframe was completed in December of 2010, being delivered brand new to Virgin Blue. However, she never sported the typical Virgin Blue livery, rather being painted in the proudly flying AFL livery, before being painted in the more standard Virgin Australia livery we see today, making this aircraft 14 years old. Virgin Australia 737-800s are all in the exact same configuration, with 8 business class seats in a 2-2 layout and 168 standard economy class seats in a 3-3 configuration, and has been retrofitted with the newer and more refreshed cabin. My original ticket had me seated in 2 Foxtrot, but at the last minute and at the request of a fellow passenger, I was moved to 1 Foxtrot on the starboard side. The business class seat has 38 inches of pitch and 19.5 inches of width. In the right armrest, you'll find a bifoldable tray table, which has a really clever phone rest. However, it cannot be used whilst eating, which is understandable. In the seat pocket, you'll find a safety card and an air sickness bag. In the center console is a small storage area, perfect for phones, passports, and more. Above are individual reading lights, air vents, and a flight attendant call button. Also, in between the seats are the controls for said seats, which include the recline and the leg rest. You'll also find a small cocktail table suitable for the welcome drinks, which today we had a choice of water, both still and sparkling, or orange juice. Soon we commenced our pushback from Gate 15, 1 minute behind our scheduled departure time.
Clip together. Then pull the strap to tighten. Once you're outside the aircraft, pull down on the red toggle to inflate, and for more air, blow into the mouthpieces. Your detectors and alarm. You may continue using your handheld devices as long as you have switched them to flight mode. Anything larger than handheld will need to be put away.
We taxied to runway 27 via Golf, Alpha, Echo, and Papa. Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff. Once airborne, we spun around to the right over the western suburbs of Melbourne, setting up a northerly course for Cairns. Flight flight time today is 2 hours and 59 minutes, covering a distance of 1,467 miles or 2,361 kilometers, cruising at 34,000 feet. Straight after takeoff, before the flaps had even retracted, we passed by the relatively large satellite suburb of Sunbury. Virgin Australia offers in-flight entertainment with a variety of different movies, TV shows and music. However, they do not have in-flight entertainment screens, not even for business class, which is understandable. Instead, they operate the genius BYOD entertainment system on all of its flights, and an app is not even required, at least not anymore. Just a simple Wi-Fi connection, which comes free for business class passengers. As we reached cruising altitude, the cabin crew commenced the in-flight service, starting with a round of drinks. Most passengers, myself included, opted for a coffee. However, unlike Air New Zealand, alternative milk options were not available. This was then followed by the main course, which was bacon, scrambled eggs, roasted potatoes and beans. For side dishes, there was a fruit salad with strawberries, pineapple and rock melon. There was also a piece of apple sultana and apricot cake, with a ridiculous amount of icing sugar on top. This was also served with another drink, in my case a glass of water. Due to this flight's interesting course over the states of Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, apart from the occasional tiny town with a population of around 15, there was not much to be seen apart from the rising sun and vast grassland. On board the aircraft are 3 bathrooms, one at the front for business and 2 at the rear for economy. Both economy and business class bathrooms are identical, containing everything you would typically expect for a domestic Virgin flight, including that of the scented Virgin branded hand soap. Just prior to landing, we passed near the far North Queensland island of Hinchinbrook, halfway between Townsville and Cairns. This also gave me a chance to see the stunning Great Barrier Reef. Soon we commenced our descent into Cairns. With a relatively clear morning forecasted, I knew that this morning's arrival was going to be quite special, with the beautiful Great Barrier Reef off in the distance and the relatively tall peaks south of Cairns piercing the sky. Personally, I recommend sitting on the right-hand side of the aircraft when flying into Cairns, as the approach can give you a spectacular view of not only the city of Cairns when flying in from the south, but also the Kuranda State Forest and Village and the northern suburbs of Cairns, such as Palm Cove, not to mention the Great Barrier Reef. You may have noticed that my hand keeps holding my GoPro, and the sound quality changes every now and then. This was due to the cabin manager realizing that I was filming, and she wouldn't have any of it, telling me to delete my footage, which I later recovered. I am no stranger to this, however, having been told to stop filming hundreds of times in the past, but it never fails to spoil my mood. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied to the domestic terminal via Bravo 2, Bravo and Charlie 4. We pulled into Gate 22, 18 minutes ahead of our scheduled arrival time. As I stepped off the aircraft, I thanked the crew for their service on board today, and I made my way inside the terminal building, putting this flight behind me and turning my attention towards reclaiming my bag and proceeding to my next flight. So how was it on board Virgin's fairly old 737, but in their new business class cabin? Well, as always, let's start from the beginning. Check-in was fantastic, simple and quick. The ground crew were very friendly, openly engaging in great conversation, with a welcoming smile. Truly, one of the best check-in agents I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. The lounge was typical of what I have come to expect for Virgin, however, the food was rather poor. The scrambled eggs were dry and barely edible, whilst the baked beans were way too spicy. I was barely able to get through half of it before I had to move on to the waffles, which were cold, but had great flavour. On board, the cabin felt fresh, modern and very clean. However, one thing I found to be unusual is that there is absolutely no separation between business class and economy class. It's not just that there isn't a bulkhead or a curtain, but there aren't even small partitions under the overhead bins. It was a little bit awkward, and personally, I much prefer the older business class cabin, simply for the separation. The food was significantly better on board. The bacon wasn't greasy, the eggs had that perfect amount of moisture, though they needed a little bit of salt, and even the fruit was fresh and crisp, which is something I always look for when I'm served fruit. The crew at first were, as you'd expect, bright and happy. However, unfortunately, this did not last, as after the service was completed, they basically became very standoffish and lacking the service that Virgin usually presents. So, would I recommend you to take this flight? Well, yes, of course I would. With a price tag of $400, how could you go wrong? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it lets me know that I'm doing a good job. Make sure you check out the other videos that I've posted to my YouTube channel, and I've said this before, but I also now have a Discord server. Feel free to join, the link can be found at the top of the description. And don't forget to ring that notification bell if you would like to see more, as I post my videos every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time. And I hope to see you all again in the next one. See you later!